I'm not usually in the driver's seat, so.
Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. My computer decided to do an update. Sorry. Sorry.
That's fine. Okay, so I've got a subject here, MGT 100, in our test QA environment. So the first thing we'll look at is how the subject outline ties into the grade centre. So if we have a look at the subject outline for this particular subject, obviously the subject outline looks a little bit different since it's been upgraded. However, it works exactly the same. So if we have a look at the items here, we can see the assessment items. There's 4. What percent of the total it's worth, and the due date of that assessment. So this ties in specifically to the grade centre here. So we can see, sorry, we'll just go back here. We've got study buddy activities, research and analysis, report and final exam. And we can see here the study buddy, research analysis, report and the final exam. A quick way to look at the sort of the values and the properties of these columns, if you have a look up here next to grade information bar and you hover over the column names, you can see that pops up. So we can see that the name of it, how many students have submitted it, and more importantly, the assessment value is 10. So we can pop up over those. So we've got 10, 20, 30, and 40, which correlates this 10, 20, 30, and 40. So we've got the 4 assessment columns with the correct information.
Matt, sorry, just to interrupt for a minute. If you turn your edit mode on, I was just going to show the subject outline tool content area, which is the way the outline speaks to the Grade Centre and I2. Is it there in that one? No, it's not there. When your outlines are published, you'll get a content area that it says subject outline tool item at the bottom of your left-hand side nav. You may have noticed it. It's usually hidden. And when you get that, that's how I2 speaks to your Grade Centre. That's how the subject outline tool speaks to your Grade Centre. And often you'll get I2 tools placed in there, and that's where you get your duplicate columns, but Matthew will speak more about that later. I was just going to show you how it actually integrates. But,
yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. What you're showing is great, but but it's not there, so that's fine. Keep an eye on it. When your subject outlines are published, you might have a look at what you've got, and down the bottom there's might be a little content area that says subject outline tool item. It's usually hidden, and it's the reason why you get duplicates in your Grade Centre. But anyway, continue on. Thank you, Matt. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine. So so when the subject outline is created in the subject outline tool and it's then published, it then pushes into the I2 subject and then it creates these columns automatically. So if you have a look at your I2 site before the subject outline is published, you'll only have these 4 system columns: the cumulative mark, calculated grade, administrative override, and grade comments. You'll only see these columns, and these won't be here until you publish the subject outline. So yeah, just make sure that the subject outline is published and you're not going in there and creating them manually. And I guess with these 4 columns here, I call them the system columns because every site will have them. The only exception is if all your assessment items are satisfactory, unsatisfactory, then the cumulative mark won't be there because obviously there's no marks. It's just satisfactory or unsatisfactory.
Matt, Jennifer Manning's got a question.
Yep.
Morning, Matt.
Morning,
Hi,
Jen.
Lise. How are you? Just wanted to mention with the School of Nursing, and it could be with other subjects in other schools, we're now marking through Turnitin.
He actually came in here
and you probably will be
last night after I left. Yeah,
you probably will be.
so maybe that's not going for him. Now,
sorry,
this
Helen.
is not a problem if he comes in.
Helen, you're on.
Yeah.
Your speaker's on. Helen,
Helen.
we can hear you.
Sorry. If you're marking through Turnitin, just be mindful that once you establish the Turnitin portal, it actually puts in another column.
Correct.
For that assessment. So you have to delete the one that came in through from the publication of your subject outline and use the one that comes through Turnitin. But if there's anyone here from the School of Nursing, I'm happy to help anyone else. So if you want me to explain that, I can do that. Thanks.
Yeah, so that's I guess Turnitin. Sorry, who was it?
That was me saying I'm from the School of Nursing.
Okay.
Hey, Rachel, I've sent you a message.
Yeah, I responded.
Yeah, so Turnitin was pushed out at the start of last session, and the integration wasn't quite as good as it should have been. So yes, if once you publish the Turnitin assessment item in the Turnitin portal, it will create an additional column. So then we'll have duplicate columns, which I'll discuss now. So if that was the scenario, and if we look at the report column here, and one thing quickly, I do have some people who don't realise that this screen can actually scroll horizontally across. So we've got this scroll bar at the bottom, and people say, oh, I don't have this column, it's disappeared, or whatever the case is. But just a reminder, you can scroll horizontally right, and you can see additional columns on the right hand side here. So if we're using the report column as an example of a duplicate column, which can happen if sites are imported from previous years, or if the Turnitin assessment's been published. Basically, if we do have two columns that is named the same, then at the end of session, when you go to transfer the marks to banner, then it will fail because the system just cannot handle two columns named the same. So what I tend to recommend is never to delete columns, just in case you delete the wrong one. So what I suggest is just rename them and hide the column. That way, if there's any issues that you did hide the incorrect one, we can just bring it back. We don't have to recreate it from scratch, because if it did have marks in it, then once it's gone, it's gone.
So Matt, can you show us how to do that, please?
Yeah. So in this one, we'll assume that this one here on the right is the incorrect one that we don't need. So with the drop down arrow next to it, we can go to edit column information. So the drop down, edit column information. And in here, we can have all the settings. We've got all the settings for that particular column. So most importantly, the column name. Primary display is what type of format it is. So if it is a score or a percentage or override grade or whatever the case is. And then what that column is actually worth of the assessment. So in this case, it's 30. However, this is the duplicate column. So all we want to do is just rename it to what I do. You can rename it to anything you like, but I just put in a dash remove or dash delete, and then just click submit in the bottom right hand corner. Excuse me. So now here you can see the columns now called report dash remove, and we've got the existing one, which is just report, which is correct. The grey dot, just before we move on, the grey circle with the red line through it, this means if it is being displayed or available to be seen by students or not. So if it's got the dot with the red line, it means that students cannot see this column under their My Grades section. So if we click on My Grades and we're looking at this as a student, there's nothing showing because all the columns have been hidden to students. So if we want to make that available to students, we just click on the arrow down and we've got an option there called hide from students on off. So it's just a toggle switch. So if we turn that on, you'll see that that dot and red line is gone. And if we go back into My Grades, we'll now see the study buddy activities being displayed to the students. And if that has been marked and had grades in it, then the student would see the grades here.
When you're hiding your columns, I may be jumping in prematurely here, but when you're hiding your columns from your students, and if you need to hide your column, like remove the column that Matt's called report remove, make sure that it's hidden from your students before you hide it from the instructor view. When you hide it from the instructor view, it'll disappear from this screen. But if it's not hidden from the students can still see it. You can't, but they can.
Which causes problems because it's gone from your view and you have no idea if it's being displayed to students or not. So yeah, you can get yourself into trouble there. So just make sure it's not available to students and then hide it from instructor view. So if we hide from instructor view, it'll then be removed or hidden, not deleted, but hidden from this view. And now we can see there that it's gone. Now, there is another view of the Grade Centre. So if we go into the Manage drop down, go into Column Organisation. This gives you a different view of the Grade Centre. And more importantly, it'll actually show you the columns that have been hidden from the instructor view. So you can see here, report dash remove is the one that we've just hidden from the Grade Centre, but here you can see it's still there with all the details. And this view is very good to get an overall sort of perspective on what's going on, because you can see the points possible of the assessments and the cumulative mark total. So you can very quickly see the marks and if they're adding up correctly. What you can also see is under date created, these are when the columns have been created. So this is another quick way you can see if you've got additional columns that have been imported from the previous session. So all of a sudden you've got dual or twice the number of columns that you should. So the date you'll be able to see the ones that have been imported incorrectly will be the last session's date. But the ones created automatically for the current session will have the correct date. So it's a good sort of overall view of seeing what's happening overall. Now, just to explain how the cumulative mark calculated grade and the administrative override works, grade comments is purely a comments field. So you can type in whatever you like here, and this doesn't get sent to Banner and doesn't play a part in any grades. It's just purely comments for yourself and for other staff members. The cumulative mark is the total of the assessment columns. So in this scenario, we've got 10, 20, 30, 40, which add up to 100. And if we mouse over the cumulative mark, it is 100, which is correct. Now, if this only added up to, say, 90 and not 100, and we know that study buddy activities is 10, then we can probably deduct that this is not being calculated. So what we need to do is drop that down, go back into edit column information like we did previously. So the cumulative mark is the correct name. These should never be renamed to anything else. Those 4 system columns need to remain as is when they're created at the start. Otherwise, the grade transfer will fail. So if we scroll down, we can see the columns it's taking into account to add up to the 100%. So here we can say, for example, using the study buddy wasn't included, and we came in here and we can see, okay, there's 3, but there's that one that's missing. So we can click on study buddy activities, click on the arrow across, and it's now part of the cumulative mark. Side note, calculators running total should always be no on any column or on every column. So if you see that as set as yes, always change it to no if it's in here, and then click on submit.
What happens if it's on yes, Matt?
If it's yes, and always find it a little bit hard to explain, but if this column was set to no, sorry, if the cumulative mark was set to no, then it does not take into consideration the columns that do not have any grades in it. So in this example, if the only grade was, say, 8 out of 10 for study buddies, it would see the cumulative mark as 80% or 8 out of 10. It disregards these columns that don't have any values in it. So all of a sudden, the student has only had 1 mark in the assessment. The cumulative mark is it's still 8 out of 100, but it sees that these haven't been are not taken into consideration. Therefore, it'll be 80%, and the calculated grade will be a distinction. So it skews the calculation of the calculated grade.
So that's if it's set to yes, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I hope that makes sense.
Is everyone clear with that one? Because I've had a few come through where they have set that to yes, and the marks have been properly skewed.
Yep. Sorry, so it's got to be set to no.
Yeah, it has to be set to no.
It's Ruhina from School of Business. Can I say one thing?
Yes. Yep.
You know, when you talked about at the beginning, the Turnitin, the new Turnitins are, when we create the portal, creates a column in the grade book, because that's where now the Turnitin assessment will be populated. Those ones, if we do not then fix the grade center, they will not be included in the total mark or cumulative mark. It
That's
will
right.
be the one that comes through with the subject outline.
That's right.
Correct.
So
Yes.
yeah, so if you hide, you'll have to hide the one that's come through with the subject outline, or often you can just delete the subject outline tool item and that will delete that column, and then link your Turnitin column into the cumulative mark.
Yep. So then you need to go into the cumulative mark, as we just discussed, and remove the automated one when the subject outline was published. Just let it pop up. Come on. So you would click on the cross next to the one that was automatically generated, and then you would select the one that was created by Turnitin and add it to the list here and click submit. So yes, that's absolutely right. So that's the cumulative mark and the calculated grade. It's pretty self-explanatory. It'll take the cumulative mark and then convert that mark into a grade. So if we go into edit column information here, we can see that our test environment is a little bit slow, so it takes a sec to come up. So you can see that the calculated grade is only taking in the cumulative mark. It is not taking in the 4 separate assessment items. So cumulative mark will take the 4 assessment items. The calculated grade will only take the cumulative mark.
And it's set to a different schema. That's why you see the fail HDD marks sitting in there. It's just got a different schema running on it.
So the schema here is the letter, which is the calculated grade.
Matt, while we're here, or when you go back to the other view, can you explain about the green tick, please?
Yep. So this green tick in the grade dot, it's called external grade. And if we click down, you can see that there's an option called set as external grade. Now, this can only be set to one of the columns, and by default, it's set to the cumulative mark, and it needs to stay on the cumulative mark. If this moves, then it can cause issues at grade transfer time. So from your point of view, it doesn't actually do anything at all. It's just a setting that needs to be set. Otherwise, it can cause problems at grade transfer time. So just something to be mindful of. But it's quite rare that that's changed, because you need to manually change it, or this column needs to be deleted. So under normal circumstances, that should be there, but just something to keep an eye on.
Okay, hide columns.
So just quickly with the administrative override. So this is a manual entry. So at grade transfer time, what happens when these get sent to Banner, it will look at the administrative override column first, and it will say, okay, is there a grade in here? No, it'll then go to the calculated grade. Is there a grade here? Yes, then I'll send that to Banner. If there is an administrative override grade in here, it'll say, okay, we'll send this to Banner and we'll ignore the calculated grade. So the administrative override gets priority and is sent to Banner. If there's nothing in there, then the calculated grade gets sent to Banner.
So Matt, and this is just a question, and I'm not sure whether everyone else has got the same question. When Quasar, like we had actually quite a few come through Sherwell recently, where Quasar has rejected the mark that's coming through from I2. What causes that?
That's typically caused by the column names being incorrect.
Right.
These column names should stay exactly as they're created from the subject outline tool. And also, if these have been manually edited in some way, then Quasar just will reject it. So yeah, I've had quite a few of those
come through just recently. And so is that because Turnitin names it differently to the way it's named in the subject outline?
It could. I'm not 100% sure on that. But the issues I've seen around has been more the cumulative mark and the calculated grade columns have been changed. But for sort of general rule of thumb, these should remain the same as what they were named in the subject outline.
Great, thank you.
So we discussed hide columns. Just with back into the column organisation view, if we'll discuss the final exam a bit later, but if you don't like having this at the end of the columns, and you'd like it up front here with the rest of the assessments, we can actually reorder the columns. So if we go back into manage column organization, and you see the sort of crosshairs, and your mouse over in the crosshair, your cursor changes. You can then click on it and just drag up. And you'll then need to click on submit. It's not real time, so you need to change it, then click on submit. So you can then see the final online exam is now sitting next to final exam rather than being at the end of the row.
With your final exam, your final online exam, can I just jump in here, Matt, too?
Yep.
Your final exam will be deployed on your side navigation bar for your students to do the exam. When that happens, when the exam is deployed, it creates another column, as does your Turnitin portal or anything else that's created in your I2 site. Now, that exam column is not linked to your cumulative mark. Okay, so it's one of those things that may have to be linked into your cumulative mark. And also the exam, sometimes the mark from the final exam isn't what it's what your subject outline says. So your final exam might be out of 100, your subject outline marks your final exam out of 50. So in that case, you need to keep your final exam column that was provisioned in your Grade Centre when your subject outline published, because you're going to need both those columns to adjust the mark. And it's the final exam mark that was provisioned when the outline was published that links into the cumulative total. Now, that adjustment of marks comes a little bit later, and I'll put a link in the chat to the information about how to adjust those marks. But yeah, I just wanted to say so that that's covered as well. I'll just put that link in the chat, Matt.
So in this example, the final exam is 40% of the assessment, which you can see there. If we have a look at this particular exam, it's been set as out of 150. So in other words, this 150 needs to be scaled down to 40 and then inputted into this, because it's this final exam that's going into the cumulative mark. Because obviously if this one that's out of 150 goes into the cumulative mark, then it just blows it out and you'll get an incorrect calculated grade.
It's I'm just putting this in the chat. Would someone care to open it and let me know that you can view it, please?
I can see it, Sharon.
Great, thanks, Rowena.
I'll click it though to see if it goes.
That'd be great, thank you.
So following on with this,
yeah, it's okay, Sharon. I can click it.
Great, that's really good. That's a really good step-by-step guide to how to change your mark, how to adjust it, and it goes right through the whole process.
So to do this, you know, you can manually, you know, if you only got a handful of students, you could manually convert, scale the mark down from 150 to 40. But obviously, you know, if you've got a number of students, then that's not a great way of doing it. So what we can do is download the Grade Centre to a spreadsheet, and then from there you can run formulas and fill out your fields, and then re-upload it back into the Grade Centre, and it'll update the values here. So we've got an upload download button here, which is pretty self-explanatory. So if we download, leave everything as per the defaults and click on submit. And then download.
So Matthew, am I right that you're actually getting rid of the Blackboard system in a few months and you're going to Brightspace? Is that correct? So all this will be gone?
It won't be gone instantly. So Brightspace is definitely replacing Blackboard. So at this stage, to the best of my knowledge, and I'm not part of the project hands-on, but there will be a few pilots as of 2024-30 next year, which will be policing the new Sydney campus, and I think one other. So I think they're hoping to move across everything else in 2024-60. But yeah, that's a work in progress. And obviously,
when you say the Sydney campus, where do you mean?
what are they calling the new campus?
Just see if I can find out.
Nursing's not going to be at the Sydney campus. It's only for business and IT.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
That's all right.
The Metro campus, that's what the word I was looking for. So yeah, 2024-60 should be when most of the subjects go over. However, obviously there's also annual subjects, so there will be some overflow of the two systems, but ultimately, yes, Blackboard is going away and Brightspace will be taking over later on next year.
So I guess next 2020-60 next year we'll be doing this in a different system, Matt.
Yes, yes, it will.
We will indeed.
Be very different.
I've heard that they may be running both systems in 2024-60.
We don't know.
They've got to make decisions about year-long subjects.
Yeah,
oh, yeah,
yeah,
of course.
That's what I just said there, the annual subjects. So yeah, they'll definitely be running in parallel to a certain extent.
Hi, I just want to duck in. It's Denise from the School of Policing Studies. Yes, our school's going to be, it's one of the first schools to be running with the new Brightspace, and that's going to be happening, I believe, next month or so. So we're going to be the guinea pigs. And what I've been told is that they won't be running, well, they'll be running, I don't think they'll be running both together. It'll be, they're doing training and stuff now. There's a party together that are doing training, and everyone is here. There's a few people that's on the training session, and then they'll be training others in the new Brightspace. But what I believe to be true is that eventually, once everybody's trained, it'll just be pushed over to the new space, and we won't be operating in the two spaces.
Okay,
but that could change.
Hi, Denise. Yeah, and probably I would imagine that's probably the case. I would imagine that I don't know, but I'm thinking that, as Matt said, the year-long subjects are probably going to to run.
Yeah, just on
parallel.
Sorry, Melissa from policing. Just on that, Denise, there is discussions about that, because if we start a student in session 1 on Interact 2, and they hit session 3 and it's going to go to Brightspace, it's going to cause an issue. We need to keep, if that student starts in Interact 2, say at the end of this year in our 83,
they need to, they need to stay in the same.
That Interact 2.
I get that. Yep.
So I think there's going to be a line drawn, and that Brightspace will come in on a session and follow them all the way through.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
But we have no more information than you guys do on that. I certainly don't. How about you, Matt?
Yeah, I've got a bit more exposure to it. But as I said, I'm not fully in the project, but I'm being called in at certain times to help with certain things. But yes, we're not swapping annual subjects over halfway through for the students to Brightspace. So they will be running in parallel for that reason. Back to Blackboard.
Just looking at back to Blackboard. Looking at setting up a formative assessment task.
So as we were discussing, so this is an exact replica of the Grade Centre, so you can see all the different columns here.
Oh yeah, sorry, we're still on that one. Yep, great.
So we can see here the final online exam. So, you know, if the students, it's out of 150, so if they've got 120, 89, et cetera, you can then run a formula, which Sharon's put a link in there, and it'll then scale into the final exam column here. So if it's whatever it is out of, not out of,
Yeah, it's sum equals whatever.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'll see if I can find it, but 1 minute. Give me a minute.
so if we run that formula and fill down, so then
Formula is the raw mark over the weighted mark multiplied by the exam weighting equals the adjusted mark. So so it would be column D.
I won't do it here, but
yeah, good.
Yeah, just put it in the link. So if we run that formula and fill down, we can then save this.
Just while Matt's doing that, when you download your Grade Centre to adjust your mark, make sure you download it twice. So that if you've got one, that's the original Grade Centre, the way it was before you played with it, and one that you've played with. The only reason being, by the time you're going to adjust your final exam mark, you'll have your Grade Centre full of other marks, and you don't want to lose them.
And just on that, I always recommend download your Grade Centre at the start of session, and once, you know, regularly throughout the session. So just in case if there's a catastrophic failure of some reason, you've always got a copy of your Grade Centre at that point in time. So once a week or once every few weeks or whatever the case is, just regularly grab it, just so you've got copies of it. Now we want to upload it back into the system. So we've ran the formula, we've got the scaled grades, and now we want to go into upload. See the file there, click submit. It'll then bring up a intermediary screen here, and first of all it goes green tick for the match of all the columns. So yes, all the columns match up fine, and then we can see here which columns have been edited in the spreadsheet. So we can see here that I manually added the unscaled marks. So in a normal scenario, this wouldn't have happened, but just in this example. And then you can see here the final exam's got those scaled marks that we've entered. So all this looks correct. And then you can select which ones, you know, what columns you want to upload or into it. Click submit. And we can now see here the unscaled marks, and more importantly, the final exam with the scaled marks here. So you can now see that we've got marks in 2 of the columns, and adds up to 43.
What do you mean by scaled per se?
Weighted, what we just did.
Weighted, okay.
Yeah, so what we just did with the final mark, the final online exam mark, and we weighted it to the final mark as per the subject outline. Like we changed it from 150 to 40. That's what Matt was talking about when he said scaled.
And that's probably touched on everything I need to discuss. Do we have any questions? Or Sharon, have I missed anything?
No, you've covered the subject outline, you've covered verified columns, you've covered duplicate columns, you've checked the calculated grade, you've adjusted the column order, you've hidden the columns, you've set up a formative assessment, you've downloaded the Grade Centre, you've done final exam columns, and you've done the green tick. Covered it all, Matt. Nice work.
So I guess generally speaking, you know, there's some subjects and some staff members, I guess when they create the subject outline, they might have quizzes. And in the subject outline, they'll have set it up as a quiz, but then for some reason they want throughout the session to have 8 quizzes under that one quiz. So then things get a little bit more complex, where you'll have 8 additional columns for each of the quizzes, and then you'll need to total those into the cumulative mark so they add up correctly. So I guess my advice there is, if
log a request.
Log a request or set it up in subject outline correctly from the start. So
actually that's a really good idea, so that you've got 8 different assessments in your subject outline rather than one.
Yep.
That makes it a lot easier in your grade centre.
And also another big one, generally speaking, is if you're merging sites or merging subjects, please merge them at the start of session before you touch anything, before you put any content in, before you import the subject from the previous subject session. Because if you import your previous session into the current one, and most people just bring everything across, then it'll bring all the columns, Grade Centre columns from the previous session as well. So all of a sudden you've now got twice the amount of columns. And if you want to merge sites, the Grade Centre has to be identical for everyone. But now all of a sudden you've got twice the amount of columns in your parent site, and obviously they won't merge because the Grade Centres aren't identical. So yeah, just a word of warning, if you're going to merge sites, merge them at the very start of session before you start doing anything to the parent site, any content or any Grade Centre changes.
So even what Matt's saying is, before you import any content into that site, if you could merge site once, but you can't merge once until the subject outlines are published. So when you do your subject outline for your parent site, if you clone that outline for the child site, perhaps it's PTI, perhaps it's OA, like Orange, perhaps it's Wagga, whatever it is, if you clone that outline and then don't touch it and then merge it, you won't have any problems. But if you actually address content and brought it over and all the rest of it, then that's when we have to get involved.
That's a big
can be a big task. Yeah,
big time suck for support, having to organise mergers at the start of every session because of those issues.
Matt, it's Denise. You know how you talked about the green tick?
Yep.
Is it imperative that has to be on the Grade Centre? Because I've just looked on ours and we don't have that little green tick on our cumulative mark.
You've got it on the calculated, I think, Denise. Just have a look on your calculated mark.
I just did, and it's not on either.
Yeah, it should definitely be on cumulative mark. If
PPP 100 doesn't have a cumulative mark,
we've got calculated grade, we've got weighted total and grade comments and admin override.
Sorry, so in that scenario, I did miss that. So if it's all satisfactory, unsatisfactory, and you do not have a cumulative mark, then there's no tick at all, and that's fine. Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry, my mistake.
That's all right.
Any other questions?
No, thank you very much, everybody.
Oh, good.
So yeah, if you have any, we've got an extensive help site with a lot of help videos for Grade Centre specifically that my previous colleague created, and we have a lot of information on there. And we've also got what are they called, Sharon?
Sure. Us, LROs.
I've just had a brain fart.
Which one?
The list of the expert users, the first point of call for
the Grade Centre champions.
The Grade Centre champions. Yeah,
Grade Centre champions. Yeah, we've got Grade Centre champions, and you've got the SRS. So you've got your I2 help support, Grade Centre champions, and SRS. Let me see if I've got links to those.
Yep. So your first port of call is obviously the help sites, and then your Grade Centre champions, and then you can log a SRS or a DIT support ticket.
And then you get one of us.
Get one of us. So it'd be me or Alison in the DIT side, or LROs in DLT.
So this is, I don't know if this one's going to work. Let's try. This one is your Grade Centre champions. Can somebody click on that for me? please?
Yep, it works.
Sweet. And just having a look now at the other one, which is the I2 help and support.
Just download it.
And that's this one. Control V. Yep, that's that one. And
Actually, one thing we didn't touch on was the Grade Centre Health Check.
oh yes, we probably actually need to put that in our little list of things to look at.
Yeah, so I'll just bring this up, and so in the Grade Centre Help site, you can see here on the right the Grade Centre Health Check. So every 2 days, so Monday, Wednesday and Friday, I update these reports, and there's an automatic process that runs overnight, and it'll scan all the subject sites and the grade centres and detect issues. So here we've got a few for policing, and as discussed, before, duplicate columns exist for this particular column, and then there's a link on how to fix it, which is normally a video, which is the case. So very self-explanatory, to the point. So duplicate columns for the cumulative marks and a link on how to fix it. So these are just by session codes, and yeah, updated Monday, Wednesday and Fridays.
So is that what you just sent us the link to?
No, I sent you the link to the help site.
Yeah,
right. Okay.
And that's on the help site.
Oh, right. There it is. I can see it.
Okay,
Thank
see
you.
Grade Centre Check.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It doesn't have 202360, Matt. Are you
Not
going to
yet.
add that in soon?
Yeah, so I update it sort of regularly. I guess
It's
the
probably
question,
pretty early yet for that one. Is it?
yeah, I'd probably put it up maybe a couple of months before the end of session.
Oh, that's the when you put it up. Okay.
Yeah. Do you think it? I mean, let me ask you. If would you like it there from day one of the session or just towards the end of the session?
Well, isn't it if something is wrong, it's better to be fixed early?
Yeah, I agree. Yep. No, we can make those changes, so that's fine.
Good point, Rowena.
Yep. So I'll get 202360 up today for you.
Sweet. Thanks, Matt.
Can I ask a quick question regarding that problem with the quasar? So you said, Matt, that mainly you saw the difference because the cumulative grade was named something different or something like that. But the assessment names, because Sharon has correctly said, the Turnitin assessment upload in the School of Business, it's kind of become normal to put click here for assessment to submission or assessment to submission portal, something like that. So it is very clear to students where they're submitting, which is obviously not is what it in the subject outline.
Correct.
So did that cause any problem? Should we be changing it back at the end to exactly the way it is, or is it okay to leave it? Because I'm just trying to think. I don't think it caused any problem in 30 session or in 15 session for me personally, but I'm just trying to think. Yeah.
I think it is more based around the cumulative mark and the calculated grade columns being renamed, or something's happened with those two specifically. But if you do come across it, then please contact me directly and we can have a look at it, and we can,
the other thing,
figure out exactly what's happening.
The other thing I noticed with Quasar too was also that you didn't, if you were missing a mark, like if there was a mark missing out of the cumulative total, you know how Matt showed us how to put marks, like each column into the cumulative total. I noticed that if there was a mark missing out of the cumulative total, it wouldn't talk to Quasar either. So would that be right too, Matt?
Possibly. I think we'll go on a case-by-case basis on this particular one.
We had something unique in ACT 128 last session because they had a satisfactory, unsatisfactory first assessment.
Yeah.
And then value assessments after that.
Yep.
And in Quasar, they never recognised the students that didn't do anything after the satisfactory and unsatisfactory assessment.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
When I
weird.
went to Quasar, I only had 19 students and I should have had 22.
Wow.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably, we probably need to look into it.
Yeah,
Again,
they fixed it up. One of the admin staff fixed it up for me. I haven't gone back
Okay.
to and asked her how she did and what was wrong. But,
Yeah, no, cool.
Mm.
Jenny, you've got your
Hi,
hand
Matt.
up.
Thanks. Thanks for the presentation, Sharon and Matt. It's been really helpful this morning. Just one thing, the Grade Centre health checks that you do, Matt, you used to send out emails to the subject conveners that had issues with their grade centres. Are you still doing that if you've identified a problem?
I don't think I used to do that.
Somebody used to. Anyway, that's okay. I'll just go in and check it. Maybe, yeah, mate. That's yes. Sorry, yeah. Was the so? Do they still do that if there's an issue?
Yes, they do. Well, in our faculty, they do.
Okay, thanks, Deborah. Thanks.
Actually, it's funny. Well, it's not funny, but typically what happens in that scenario that you guys will send out the email to the staff member to fix it, and I'll go, oh, that's too hard. So then I'll log a DIT ticket, and then that'll come back to me. So I've got to fix it anyway. So.
All good. All right. Well, thank you very much for your help for the startup and the session, Matt. Thanks.
No worries. All right,
Bye.
we'll call it there.
Hi, Matt. Can I just ask, please, where do we get the recording of this from? Because I wanted to share it with our staff so they can at least, because there were some really good points in here, which I think will help.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll get that link and send it out to.
I think Lachlan will probably get the link and send it to everyone.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. No
Okay,
worries.
wonderful. Thank you.
No worries.
All right. Thanks very much, everyone.
Have a nice day, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.